The government promised you 1.2 million homes by 2029 because they said that would resolve the housing crisis once and for all. But in the latest Senate inquiry, it turns out that promise is already collapsing, and even the Reserve Bank was forced to admit that the government will not achieve that target. Hey guys, Scott here. Now, I've been covering these Senate inquiries back to back. First, the Treasury was forced to admit to a $54 billion budget blowout. Then we had the $1 trillion debt story that triggered an independent review. Then another hearing exposed that $80 billion was poured into the housing programs, yet the actual homes delivered are a fraction of what was promised. There were even serious questions raised about taxpayers' money wasted to fund crime on infrastructure sites. This was sickening. And if you thought that was bad enough, this new inquiry takes it even further. What makes this inquiry the most controversial is that different departments were questioned separately and under a lot of pressure. They all admitted different parts of the same story. The 1.2 million target was never truly on track. There was no serious, transparent financial modeling behind it, and no real plan to match rising demand with actual supply while migration keeps surging. Now, on top of that, the RBA's own projections now show dwelling investment turning negative, which means fewer homes coming, not more. And every time they were asked for clear numbers on how they came up with this target or the 5% deposit scheme, they deflected, redacted, or they said they would provide it later. Later when? This is your money and you deserve the answers now. When you put all of this together, you have to ask a really hard question. Is this just incompetence, or did they know from the start that this target was never realistic? Because even a 10th grader understands if you pump demand and do not fix supply, prices are going to skyrocket out of control. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through every major revelation that came out of these Senate hearings, and I'll show you why the 1.2 million home promise looks more like a political slogan than an actual serious plan. And if you care about your mortgage, your rent, and your future, you actually do need to see this. I cover property and the economy every single day in these daily property updates, so hit subscribe so you never miss a video. Okay, let's get into it. Let's start with the big promise. Now, the government told you they would build 1.2 million homes by 2029 and that this would fix the housing crisis. Now, when I first heard this, I actually personally was extremely excited until the detail never came, and that's obviously when I became very concerned. Now, this is the headline that we've all seen, 1.2 million homes. But in the Senate inquiry, when pressed for updated numbers, Treasury quietly admitted the latest forecast shows only 938,000 dwellings will be completed by 2029 in a best case scenario. So they probably won't even hit that as well. But that's the best number they can do.
The National Housing Supply and Affordability Council's forecast of nearly 12 months ago now, which said 938,000 dwellings during the accord period.
So about 250,000 short.
That is roughly 250,000 homes short of what was promised. And this forecast did not come from the opposition. It came from the National Housing Supply and Affordability Council itself. Now think about what that means. We already have a housing shortage estimated at around 300, and some people even say up to 500,000 homes. So we are not starting from a balanced housing market. We are already behind, and now we are projected to miss the target by an additional 250,000 homes. But I can tell you right now, looking at the numbers and my data team, it's actually going to be a lot more than that. Now, I don't understand it. How does the government stand in front of the media and claim they are fixing the crisis when their own numbers show that they are falling short? Not by a little bit, but by a lot. And if you think they might somehow catch up in the final years and build fast enough to close the gap, the trend is actually moving in the opposite direction. So this is getting worse and worse and worse month by month by month. In fact, the RBA has openly acknowledged that dwelling investment is projected to turn negative toward the end of the forecast period, around financial year 29.
I guess the concern I have is that if governments are focusing on housing and the Labor government here in Canberra is spending $45 billion on housing, but we're getting negative growth projected, that's not good, is it?
It's not solving a supply problem.
So in plain English, that means supply is not accelerating to meet the target, it is slowing. Remember, you need investment to get housing supply, and you need incentives to attract that investment. Supply should have already been trending up if the government was serious about its 1.2 million homes target. Instead, the trajectory is flattening and turning negative. Now, the real question becomes, is the government incompetent, Or was this promise purely a PR stunt and they never intended to fulfill it? Is it something they cooked up to try and win an election? Now let's talk about the money. The government keeps repeating that it is spending around $45 billion on housing. But in this inquiry, when senators asked a very simple question, how many homes have actually been completed under flagship programs like the Housing Australia Future Fund? The room went quiet. One minister publicly claimed that 5,000 homes had been delivered. That sounds impressive until senators asked a very basic question: where are those 5,000 homes? When pressed for specifics, the real number was nowhere near 5,000. It was closer to, get this, 895 homes, under 1,000. So let that sink in for a moment. This is a $10 billion fund that was supposed to be invested with the returns used to build new affordable housing. Instead, what actually happened?
Last week, I asked Senator Wong how many houses it had completed, and she said 5,000. So I'm just wondering if you could explain the discrepancy between what Senator Wong said, which was 5,000 houses built from the Housing Australia Future Fund, and what Mr Langford said today, which is 880.
Senator, it's 895 in the Housing Australia program.
895, but not
talk about the
5,000.
total program.
The problem with your argument,
Here we go.
right, is political speech. And I understand all this is very complicated for you. And maybe this is the new Liberal Party, you know, if you don't know, vote no. If you don't understand it, you're opposed to it. We'll try and help you understand it. That's what we'll try and do.
Look, I'm happy to be told that I'm stupid, but really don't think these political speeches are all that productive. Just trying to get to the bottom of things. Transparency is a terrible thing, isn't it?
We're trying to help you, Senator.
Look, I really appreciate your kindness.
Much of the activity involved the government going out and buying off-the-plan properties from developers, taking supply away from Aussies and the government stepping in and buying it, not caring about how much it cost. They simply wanted to report numbers. So they bought properties to report numbers and hurt Aussies in the process. Now, many of these were not new builds. They were homes already completed or already in the pipeline. The government stepped in, attached a label to property which was already built, and then counted them. And the original pitch, around $250,000 per affordable home. Now the real cost has blown out to more than $750,000 per home. In some cases, over $1 million each. So where is the affordability there, and where is the new supply? This is $10 billion of your tax money completely wasted. You deserve answers as an Aussie taxpayer. Now let's talk about the famous 5% deposit scheme, the so-called savior for first home buyers. This is the policy the government keeps holding up as proof that they are helping young Aussies get into the market. But here is where it started getting extremely messy. When senators pushed Treasury on the modelling behind the scheme, meaning the actual numbers, the supply assumptions, the demand impacts, the price effects, large parts of that modelling were redacted under freedom of information. And it gets worse. The supply assumptions were labelled irrelevant. We're in the middle of the worst housing crisis in modern history, and you are telling us supply is irrelevant? In basic economics, housing is supply and demand. If you pump demand into a constrained market, prices rise. Yet when asked how supply was factored into the modelling, officials danced around it and said it would be tested later. Well, later when? And by the way, this 5% deposit scheme is not the lifeboat people think it is. It can easily turn into a trap if the economy shifts even slightly in the wrong direction. A 95% loan is objectively riskier than an 80% loan. Even the RBA acknowledged that higher loan to valuation ratios carry a greater risk to the economy, especially if interest rates rise. And we are now staring down more rate pressure, not less. So what did the government do? They encouraged Aussies to take on a 95% debt ratio in an environment where rates are increasing with weak wage growth and rising taxes. I want to ask our government this: are you deliberately trying to punish Aussies? Have people not suffered enough? The 5% deposit scheme was a mere PR headline to distract Aussies from the real issue, which is supply. Where is the money to encourage supply? Where are the incentives to encourage supply? Where are the tax reductions to encourage supply? The politicians get the press conference, you get all the pressure. Let's summarize this complete mess. They are not going to meet the 1.2 million housing target, and even the RBA has admitted we are not on track. The ministers cannot even provide consistent figures on how many homes have been delivered, and the Housing Australia Future Fund is neither building meaningful new supply nor delivering true affordability. And the 5% deposit scheme is pushing buyers into riskier debt in a high rate environment Instead of fixing the crisis, they have made the position worse than it was 2 years ago. Now, here is how this directly impacts you. If housing targets are missed, if supply remains constrained, if demand-side policies inflate prices, who bears the consequences? First-home buyers are going to pay more for their property. Renters are going to face a tighter market, and they will pay higher rents. Mortgage holders face higher repayments if rates remain elevated. And all of this is happening while taxpayers are funding these programs. And when you ask for clarity, you are told that information will come later, or that it is under review, or that it is commercially sensitive. So when you connect all of the dots, does this look like a coordinated, intelligent plan to solve this housing crisis? Or does this look like something very, very different? If we look at it, this actually looks like a series of headline-driven interventions laid on top of a structural supply problem. Basically, this has been public relations all the way, not a real game plan to fix the crisis. That's why this inquiry matters, because the truth is going to bubble to the surface. So that's what this inquiry has exposed. If you're sitting here hoping someone in the government is about to roll out a magic fix for the housing crisis, think again. We have seen in the Senate inquiry, there is no intelligent plan to fix this. From what we just saw, this looks like a government full of people who missed their economics lessons. They are not even detailed managers. They have none of the numbers available. And when they get it wrong, who pays for it? You do. You pay through higher rents. You pay through higher mortgage repayments. You pay through higher taxes, higher bills. Now, this was your daily property update. I break down property and the economy every single day with no spin. I pull all the research into one place so you don't have to do it. If you want to stay ahead of what's really happening and become a property insider, hit subscribe, hit the bell so that you can stay informed. I'll see you at the next video.